Good Monday morning, guys. I'm Jerry Miller, and this is Real Talk with Keith Smith. Thank you kindly for joining us. A pleasure to connect with you through the I Love CVille Network in downtown Charlottesville. And folks, we have a gentleman on today's program that epitomizes downtown Charlottesville, that embodies Woolen Mills, that embodies the spirit of Charlottesville and Central Virginia that we all love to call home. Roger Voisinet is in the house. This guy knows solar like the Pope knows holy water. This guy knows hockey like Eric Lindros does. That's a Philadelphia Flyer reference for you right there. Ooh. This guy knows real estate like few do in this community, and he knows so much on so many topics. He's a host's dream. Judah Wickower is the director. Nikki Chambless will join us eventually on today's program, but let's go to the two-shot and welcome Roger on the program. You got a lot of people watching. You got people already giving you props. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing fine, thank you. Got to say, I've been married now 7 years, and it's been the best time of my life.
You look fantastic.
Thank you.
You look fit.
My wife's a trainer. We go to the gym all the time. We train together.
Well, I'm going to give your wife a compliment. Roger is looking more jacked and fit than I've seen him ever, and you were already jacked and fit to begin with. And sun-kissed in bronze, fresh from the beach.
Well, we went to Virginia Beach. Last week we were in the Bahamas with Ludwig and others, friends. Craig Redinger. It was lots of fun. Planning a trip to Canada, where I used to come from, Toronto and Montreal.
Jessica is watching.
Yeah.
And she gives you the heart emojis. Jessica, he's looking fit. He's looking very fit.
Thanks, Jessica.
All right, we have so many topics we want to cover, and viewers and listeners, chime in with questions, chime in with comments, ask anything you want. The man is a wealth of knowledge. Woody Fincham says, Roger, Mr. Green Realtor. Woody Fincham is excited that you're watching the show. You got Bawn Romer giving you some props right now. John Blair on LinkedIn giving you some props. We got to talk solar.
Okay.
A topic that's close to your heart, open-ended, anywhere you want to go to start.
Well, I've been in solar since 74.
Right.
I was full-time from 74 to 86. First in Montreal, then in Virginia, where we started Virginia Solar on the downtown mall. So I know a little bit about, creating trust and starting a company. And my observations, and I know you want to talk about Segura, is that they took the shortcut to building a company by spending a lot of money on advertising and marketing instead of building relationships one at a time. I think that was reflected in their mixed reviews. Some of them loved Segura, some homeowners did not. It's not a secret. Give you an example of what I think is the way to go. Richard Chrysler at Sunday Solar, a long time ago, bought his office building on River Road. Has an income stream. Noble Burgers is their tenant. They have solar everywhere on their roof, so they have no electric bill. If anyone wants to talk to the president, Richard, he's there. Trust is high. There's no doubt that they're going to be in the community. So I think that's the key. Paul Reisberg at Alt Energy used to be like that until he moved away. Devin and Rich at Sun Tribe are like that. If there's a problem, it starts at the top, and I think this Sun Tribe, or this Segura guy, he's the only guy in solar I don't really know. And there's a reason. I know he's not around. He should be here right now writing the ship.
He's talking to Andy Bindia, the founder and former CEO of Segura Solar. And look, we got a lot of folks that watch, and I think it's important to highlight that the demise of Segura is not indicative of the industry across the board. And I think that's what you're trying to do here.
Absolutely, nor is it of the people who work at Segura. By the most part, they're good intention, they're smart, they're hardworking. I know some of them, you do too. But if there's a problem like this, it's really the fault of the people at the top. And you could tell they're just too diverse. When you go on their website, I think they're trying to get their part-time salesmen to know everything about insulation, windows, heating and air conditioning, and now they're selling electric car chargers. That's not the way to do it.
Absolutely.
Not at all.
I agree 100%. So what's the message that should be taken from here, and what's the feedback that you've heard from the marketplace since the Segura home house of cards has started to crumble?
Well, first I'd pause a little bit on condemning them, and let's give them a chance. Mike Ball's trying to right the ship. He's a smart guy. We play hockey together, so I've known him for a long time. But it's a red flag to me that this Andy guy is not in town helping Mike do what Mike's trying to do, is pay the bills, get the installations back. So I would pause. I don't want to ever criticize anyone unfairly or prematurely, but the red flags are out there. So I mentioned Sunday Solar and Alt Energy, which is now Tiger Solar. There's a lot of great companies, and they have a high degree of trust, because who does a homeowner want to work with? With somebody they know, like, and trust.
Right.
And you can get that when you talk to the owners. Like Richard Chrysler, keep talking about, we go back to 1980. He used to live at my house. He watched me do solar for 10 years. And then sometime in the 2000s, he got the bug. His brother was also in the solar business, and he segued from his previous business to full-time solar, and they're doing great. I don't have any problems recommending Sunday Solar.
I love it. I love it. Woody Fincham mentions Logan Landry, the former CEO. Woody says Logan is a smart guy and an ethical guy, and his new venture will be worth watching. Logan with Senvar Roofing now. He's a guy that I've had conversations with, and I'll give Woody some props and echo what he said. You had something on your mind.
Well, Woody's the go-to appraiser for any home that has solar or any kind of alternative energy, geothermal or whatever. He took great care to train himself into these alternative technologies, and so he knows what he's talking about. And I love his idea when we talk about zoning later, about limiting it to just residential changes. I hope the city adopts Woody's idea. There's Nikki.
We'll talk Nikki Chambless coming on set here and in studio. We'll get to Nikki here in a matter of moments. Why don't we talk upzoning or rezoning?
Rezoning, yeah.
Yeah. Your thoughts, open-ended on that, anywhere you want to go.
Well, I'm no expert, and I sort of hesitated to try to delve too deeply into it too prematurely, because I know there's going to be changes, but I rely on Bob Pinio, Richard Price, guys who are really at the forefront of that. They spend a lot of time and are on the committees to advise the city. But I do have one property in the Willow Mills that I've owned since the 90s that I think is going to be like the poster child for what's good about this. And I'll just give you a brief introduction. It's a rental house on 1317 East Market, 10,000 square foot lot. Now, I always wanted to build a second house in the back. It's a perfect location. It's flat. Everyone loves the Willow Mills. It's for obvious reasons, but you need 12,000 square feet to build two houses. But under the new RA zoning, according to Bob Pinio and Richard Price, if I keep the existing house, which is an old house that could be bulldozed, but I keep it up, I can build 3 small cottages in the back on sublots and either rent them or do a lease purchase or sell them or sell the lots to a builder like Mike Sadler and have a nice little cottage community, a la Ross Chapin or Sarah Suzanka. You may know those names.
Oh, yeah.
They build like these small home communities all over the country. And that's a win, because we have 3 new homes in the Willow Mills. They'll match the other homes in the neighborhood. It's like a half a block to Mead Park Pool, Firefly. It's great. That's a dead-end street.
Andrew Hickson giving you props.
Okay. We'll talk about Andrew soon. Hi, Andrew.
Bob Pinio, fantastic architect.
Yeah, he's been on the show with Richard.
Who's come on the I Love CVille Network. Richard Price, a fantastic developer and squash player.
Yeah.
Richard Price, the visionary behind and I will get it right, hold on, give me 10 seconds here. Richard Price, the visionary behind the High Street development.
1130 condominiums we built and sold.
You were a part of this.
Yeah, I did. He and I did the project. Richard designed it. I found the land, and I know he was looking. And we sold all the condos for about $300 a square foot. And I just resold this. There's 2 I resold for like $350 a square foot. Now I mention that because downtown condos are going for $600 a square foot. The 2 at the Belmont Lofts are $560 and $660 a square foot. So we did a great job. People love the little condominium community. It's 2 stories. It's around a courtyard, and it was affordable, relatively affordable. I'm not saying it was cheap.
All things considered.
Yeah,
right?
all things considered.
Yes.
Gwendolyn Gale Cassidy watching the program. She says, "Woohoo, go Roger! ADUs are our absolute future." And I certainly am a huge proponent of the ADU as well. Woody Fincham says those condos are very cool. We valued several of them. It's great to know an appraiser like Woody Fincham. Nikki Chambless now on screen here. We've talked upzoning, we've talked solar, and we've talked the 1130 condos. thoughts on any topic, we will adapt to you.
Wow, y'all had your coffee this morning, didn't you?
Always.
Okay, so you know what? I just have to plug a local business. You mentioned that area, and I was thinking Firefly and all that. Like Holly's Diner is right there.
Oh, Holly's Diner right
just
across
got to bring
the street.
that up because
Thank
it's
you.
also a local business that does a lot of music, which is
Good
very
for you.
near and dear to my heart, and like a key feature of our area.
Oh, absolutely.
The fact that we have so much music and such a music scene makes it feel like I'm talking about like, I don't know, DC or something. We don't have that, and in some ways I wish we did, but what we have is pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Especially for being a big small town.
Yeah, small town, yeah.
There's a lot there and a really cool community of amazing people.
You've seen the evolution of the music scene firsthand, 46 years in Charlottesville.
Okay, I remember when we started Live Arts, the very first Live Arts Gala was across the street here. And there was this beautiful voice coming in the dark, and it was Dave Matthews singing for the first time outside of the Millers. He was, bartender at Millers. That was the beginning of him. And then I was on the roof of the Pink building, Ruhalak Toledano's building on South Street.
Oh, yeah.
And that was their first time they played as a band. And I just happened to be there. I didn't really know much about it. And then they segued over to Max and Trax, which is now gone. But I used to hang out at Trax. Trax came first, and then Max was the country band next to Trax.
Absolutely.
Trax was like my hangout, because I forget the guy's, Bill Elder, I think was his name, and he had a WordPress, he was like a word processing guy, and that's where Dave Matthews Band played.
Awesome.
First concert I ever saw in Charlottesville in 2000 was at Trax.
Yeah.
It was an unbelievable concert. I think I spent the cover charge, I think was like $4 to get in.
Oh, yeah.
And it was as intimate a setting as the Southern is, and it had acts and talent come through that place that were world class, that you literally could almost touch in the front row, the people on stage.
Same year as the C&O bar underneath the C&O current bar.
Yeah.
C&O Club.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone who's listening that was in the 80s. That was so much fun. That's where I met the Stone Wheat Things.
That was the Sandy McAdams era, was it not?
Well, Sandy started C&O.
Yeah, then.
And here's the point. Sandy was at the C&O every night, shaking hands, telling people who he was, asking them how. That's how a business should be created, not by somebody going off to Haiti trying to, help them. I mentioned that because if he really wants to help Haiti, he should have donated money to Building Goodness Foundation, because they know how to help Haiti.
Oh,
there it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
There it is. All right, so a lot of topics we want to cover. We'll head to rezoning and upzoning, and then we'll weave these questions in that are coming in here. Why don't you start on upzoning, rezoning, and then...
Not really my area of expertise, so what I'll do is I'll contribute in this one as I can.
Yeah.
And we're going to let you run with this one, Roger, and I will possibly even ask questions.
How do you think it's going to impact this community?
Well, right now, I hope they take Woody's idea, because if they just limit it to residential changes, I think it'll be more positive than negative. I know there's a lot of angst about building 7-Elevens and vape stores in a residential neighborhood, and that's what happens when it's not very clear what they're doing, and it's almost too much at one time. It's too broad. So maybe the city of Charlottesville is listening now, and they'll take Woody's suggestion and just focus on residential, because everybody wants more housing.
Yes.
Well,
not everyone, but yeah, we need it.
We need more housing.
We need it.
And here's an example. I tried to build a second house in a great neighborhood, and I can't, because we need 6,000 square feet. Well, why do you need 6,000? Why not 5? Because there's hundreds of lots in the Belmont area on 5,000 square feet. So, but just to get that one little change was almost impossible. I gave up until now.
Does the dirt, we talked about this with Woody, and you got a boatload of realtors watching the program right now, including some elected officials. We'll highlight Jesse Rutherford. We'll highlight our boy Bobby Yarborough in Redfields. We got Travis watching in Southwestern Virginia in Danville. Mike Pruitt, who's going to be on the show tomorrow, Albemarle County Board of Supervisor. Lloyd Snook, saw you this morning. Mayor Snook, good to see you again. Liza Borchis, Johnny Garver, Jason Howard, Lonnie Murray, watching the program. Chad Wood, Michael Plecker, hello. Here's what I'm concerned about. And Nikki, you jump in anytime you want.
Definitely.
We work alongside investors here, and the investors that I'm working alongside, I've said, Jerry, show me an opportunity to buy something where I could potentially get X return on my money. And I'm not going to tell the number because I'm not trying to stigmatize anyone, but a developer, when it's all said and done, wants to make money. That's the name of the game. So the developer has said to me, show me something land-wise that I can buy. I got this cash ready to go, and I want to be able to do X amount of return on my purchase. So my concern is, maybe concern is not the right word because I'm also in the for-profit business as well, that the dirt becomes a bit more opportunistic. As the dirt becomes more opportunistic, then the developer is going to be more opportunistic. And as the developer becomes more opportunistic, the density that goes on that dirt is going to come at a price point that is going to be far from affordable.
Well, are you talking about a guy who wants to buy and then flip the land, or a builder who wants to buy and build a house that could be sold? Because
a guy that wants to buy the dirt and develop it into doorways in bedrooms.
Okay, well, that's a little bit different than just, and I wouldn't call them an investor so much as a
developer.
Yeah, developer.
Yeah.
And
working with one now.
There's no home that's not built by a developer or by an owner operator. But let's face it, we're not going to solve the affordable housing problem without developers. In fact, the best suggestion someone told me once is, if the city of Charlottesville wanted to build more affordable housing, just hire Ryan Homes. 'Cause who knows better how to build a lot of homes in a fast period of time that's affordable. Now, they're not the best name in town, but they know what they're doing. They've been doing it since, I think they've been doing it as long as I've been alive, which is since 1949.
They also have a luxury division, NV Homes, that a lot of folks don't know about. That's them. But you're right, they do come in at a price point that a lot of folks cannot duplicate.
Absolutely.
But that's because the economies of scale, the purchasing power, and the vertically integrated nature of their model.
Yeah, and they build most of the house in a factory, and then they ship it down, and they can put up 6 townhomes in 3.5 months. And they pre-sell them all, too.
Right. Nikki, any thoughts on any of this?
So my brain keeps going back to the other zoning conversation before,
Yeah.
truly. Like, my brain attached to that, and I'm just like, where are we on that? But that's not quite, I guess it's all related. It's interconnected. I do think Ryan has a little bit of a stigma there.
Yeah,
and
they
it's
do, but-
also still an entry point into home ownership. So
Yeah, I mean, Woody Fincham on the show
Yeah.
last week said, hey, not every house has to have hardy panel or hardy plank.
Oh,
Could have
gosh,
vinyl.
no. Yeah, not at all.
Yeah, so, Ryan
Yeah.
knows how to do
No.
that.
Well, and in that case, like, one of the differences for people who don't know is that you just don't have as many choices, right? It's
Yeah.
not the customization.
Yeah.
And then, like you mentioned, the different levels of quality.
Yeah, but we're talking about
it's a
getting
home.
people in a
You're
shelter.
getting in home ownership.
Exactly.
What do you think
Where
about
you own
building
the
up?
dirt.
Building up to
Well,
solve
it's
this.
inevitable. Look around the world.
Right.
Yeah.
Why the resistance for building up in this community?
I don't know. I mean, Keith Woodard and Greg Powell designed an 11-story condominium project. They pre-sold 26 units at $600 a square foot. They were gonna create the Market Plaza, and
Then he walked
Cost-
away from millions of dollars of underground infrastructure.
it took so long.
The market changed.
And the cost went up so much they needed to add a second or the 12th floor. And at that time, the city of Charlottesville apparently turned them down.
Yeah.
And Keith said, lose a little now or a lot more later. So he took a small loss, well, relatively small, a couple of $1 million, yeah. And Greg Powell lost too. He was the architect.
Well, I think a lot of people here, like, when I talk to, like, locals who have been here for, have you been here?
Since
your whole-
77.
77, okay,
Yeah.
so.
Not my-
46
probably in a
years.
Not my whole
similar-
life.
Okay,
46
I
years
didn't
for
know.
him, 23 years for me.
Yeah.
Okay, so then one of the conversations I have with a lot of people who definitely enjoy the benefits of growth in our area, but sometimes struggle with the NIMBY, not my backyard,
Sure.
right? Or I don't want tall buildings. I think it's that idea of this city, regardless of where it has been in the last many years, has always had a certain charm about it. That seems to be one of the main topics that people are concerned about losing. And there are
Yeah.
other things about that, but when I pick apart the pieces, and I'm like, okay, got it, I understand that. It's going to happen with any growth. It's statistics. Okay, next. What's the next thing? The thing that we land on that's not an easy numbers conversation is the charm. And I think that can be done well.
Yeah.
I think there are examples of it being done well. right? And I can't think of one right off, but just, motorcycling around the state, you go across places where it's like, oh, they obviously are very intentional about their town and the growth in their town.
Yeah, change is difficult for anyone.
It's hard.
The city owned that land on the parking lot that we're talking about. I thought, wouldn't it be great if the city...
You're talking the Water Street Woodard development. Yeah.
If city
know that one well.
Created a development with studio and one-bedroom apartments where people who work downtown could rent them and or buy them, and they wouldn't have to have a car.
Our friend Oliver
just like
tried to do that.
Oliver wanted to do it.
That would be ideal.
And then Oliver got shot down for, I don't know, forget why.
Well, because the other conversation that happens a lot is, oh, service is terrible. And it's, when people can't afford to work here and live here.
They're tired when they get to work. They drove an hour. Yeah.
And even then, that's still...
Yeah, I don't know how they do it.
What are they getting paid to be able to drive that hour?
Exactly.
I'll give some background on this, and then jump back in the mix here, Roger. So we're talking about two separate projects here. We're talking about Keith Woodard's project, Market Plaza on Water Street, where he legitimately was going to create an epicenter for the farmers market. The farmers market right now is on an asphalt black surface parking lot in the dead of summer.
15-degree slope.
Yeah, right. And if anyone goes there in the dead of summer, they realize that it is hotter than Hades there. The quality of life for the farmers market on this asphalt parking lot is not the best, or certainly not what it could be. So Mr. Woodard and his team watches this show, emphasizing that.
Yeah.
So they were going to build this epicenter for the farmers market, and also this mixed-use building that was going to include retail and residential, everything in walking distance of the downtown mall. He put a couple $1 million of underground infrastructure. We need to get the underground infrastructure before we can build up. And then the political climate in City Hall was so toxic that Mr. Woodard and his team legitimately chose to walk away from a couple $1 million of underground infrastructure, then pursue this project in its form. The second project we're talking about, then I'll stop talking, is Oliver Kootner. Oliver Kootner was going to do studio apartments or micro apartments about half a block off Water Street in one of his buildings. That ended up being an office building, the development.
It's called the Glass House.
Yep. And instead of having studio apartments, we now have, how would you characterize it?
A funky office with many stairs and code violations that somehow Oliver made work.
Right.
And he still makes work.
It still makes work, and not, I believe, at full occupancy.
Probably not.
So we do know, and I can say this with confidence, that studio apartments or micro apartments within spitting distance of the downtown mall would have been a smash success.
Yeah, home run, for sure.
Home run, right?
No doubt about it.
Because folks in their 20s and 30s want to be able to walk to where they play and work.
Yeah.
And they would have done it. We see this in Manhattan. We see this in Georgetown and D.C. everywhere.
So they're already weaning themselves from the automobile. So
Yes.
They're probably going to have little scooters at the most.
How about the topic of office conversion to apartments? I know that's an expensive conversion.
Yeah, they just did a big study in New York. Yeah, that's a difficult thing. It's imagine putting in bathrooms where it's the plumbing that bothers me, and then each unit will have to have a little air conditioner. In an office building, you don't have that.
Right.
It's not that easy to do, in other words.
Something I wanted to do here, but the money that was needed was out of my purview by far.
Yeah.
So I want to throw this to both you guys here. We know we want density, and we know we want more housing, because if we do additional supply, that may stabilize price points. At least that's what the folks are saying. Do we not have tangible data that perhaps says otherwise? We got these studio apartments that Oliver tried to bring to market. I'm very curious of your take on the High Street project with those apartments in the floodplain by the Rivanna River.
Yeah.
On your take on that. So I want to go anywhere on this topic for anywhere you guys want to go. Why don't you go first, Nikki?
Okay, yeah. So I want to start on this because I think part of it is that when we're looking at these things, and I'm not crazy in the know to specifics of history here, right? But the broader picture is what happens is a lot of times these small studio areas end up still being crazy priced because they're walking distance, because they're new, because oftentimes they're very modern and pretty freaking cool is what they usually are, right? When people are promoting this, they're not trying to do well, first of all, you don't want it to not look nice. That would be really not so smart. But then they end up being priced in such a way where it's really not serving the purpose that we're talking about. And I don't have a solution to that.
It's possible. I mean, it's up to whoever's the owner is going to charge what the market will bear.
And it's also important to emphasize that even if they do come in at a high price point, that is then going to open up price points lower on the pricing spectrum. Because folks will fill this high price point that otherwise we're pursuing a lower price point, which would then open that up for the marketplace and others to go after. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, other areas. Well, affordable housing, I first think of the three words: land, labor, and lumber. Because if you can't get your land or your labor or your lumber less expensive, you're not going to have the sum of the three equal affordable housing, or what we call affordable. So land, so Habitat for Humanity, they're experts in doing this. And also the labor, they require the owners to contribute labor. Lumber, I heard they got some sweet deal through a NAFTA violation that Canada was fined, and they have to supply framing lumber to Habitat for Humanity from Canada at a discount. So they're kind of attacking, that's why Habitat's so successful. And by the way, we should give props to Dan and
Dan Rosenswag
and Kelly at Habitat for Humanity, the whole team, because we have one of the largest Habitat for Humanity operations in the country with
That's
regards
incredible.
to land and lots. Southwood Mobile Home Park is a great
They
example.
do amazing. They are amazing for our community. What they do contributes in a huge way.
They're going to transfer all those people that are in those mobile homes into newer homes. And have you been out there? They have this, Dick's Sporting Goods donated a little soccer pitch around the homes.
That's awesome.
I took a 1 hour jaunt through the new Southwood project, and there is a lot of beauty there and functionality as well. How do you guys characterize today's real estate market?
Challenging? Is that a first?
Statistics. I mean,
Yeah.
first of all, I think when you ask anyone in the business, we're not holograms. In other words, what we say is not going to reflect the market perfectly. If we had a bad week, we're going to be down. If we had a great month, we're going to be. So that's why I get to statistics. Statistics are pretty bad. Low inventory, high prices, tough time to be a buyer, good time to be a seller. But one thing I'd like to interject is the interest rates, everyone talks about them being high. In 1982, I bought my house, interest rates were 16%.
Nice.
And Virginia Solar paid 24.5% for our company loan. Imagine those two at one time. So although they're high now relatively to the last 8 or 10 years, they're not prohibitively high from buying a home. Look into adjustable rate mortgages. Look into buy downs. Like builders are more and more buying down the interest rate for their homeowners. Juicy Campa called me. Sorry.
No, totally.
They're watching you on the
100%
show right now.
though. Yes.
Nikki, jump in here.
No, I love that your answer was statistics. I think that's incredible. And I will say, so from the buyer-seller perspective, I know it doesn't feel like it, but it's not as bad as it could be. It's really not, because that stability that we talk about with our area, because we're more transitory in nature, with a very large, impactful aspects, NJIC and UVA being two of the top ones.
Yeah.
We're actually, it could be a lot worse, and I hate to have that be the context. And some days that really needs to be a thing that's said out loud. And there's still a way, right? Is it the easiest time to be a new home buyer? No. That first time home buyer, it is challenging right now, and it's still possible. So it's a matter of taking a look at what it is you want, digging into that a little deeper, and being like, okay, so what's the why behind that? Because a lot of times people want to say, oh, I want my forever home. Okay, so usually people aren't going to stay in a home for forever if we're talking to somebody in their 20s and their 30s, right? So what about the stepping stone, right? We talk about that a lot. What is the stepping stone? Could that help you get what you want and build a better foundation for the future forever home, whatever that may be? And in our area, that's a really good way to go.
It's important for people to get into the market, to become homeowners, because the way you win in real estate is by being in the market for a good amount of time. Same with stocks and bonds. It's, flipping is not the way to go with either stocks or homes.
Oh, yeah.
Hold them. It's not timing the market, it's time in the market, as they say.
I love that.
Yeah.
Very well said. How do you think
nicely done.
a drop in rates is going to impact this market?
more competition
Yeah.
for the buyers. There'll be more buyers.
Yeah, exactly what it's done the last couple times.
But
it's
if it
happened.
goes really low to where it used to be, like 3, then sellers will come. There'll be more sellers. It's got to get to that level where
Yeah.
the sellers are not afraid to lose their current mortgage. You know, that no one wants to lose a 3 and replace it with a 6.5.
That's what we talk about all the time here.
I know you do.
What I'll throw this to you. Where is that drop in rate threshold that is going to get someone like me who, you know,
Andy Zeman, are you watching? Because you could answer that.
you got,
I don't know. It's probably in the 3 or 4s.
that's the question I'm going to ask. What's that number that's going to get someone like me at a 275 rate off the fence and to deploy 700, 800K in equity?
Well, you don't have to match your current low rate because you're going to have a lot of equity. You can put down more cash so you have a lower mortgage, assuming you're going to get a mortgage. So maybe your monthly payment will be the same even though it's at a higher rate. So it's something close to 3 or 4, I would say.
So 3 or 4, you
We're
think
pretty
is-
far away
We're
from
pretty far away.
Pretty far away from that.
Because we're flirting with the 7
Yeah.
right now.
That's bad.
What do you think? What do you think, Nikki?
Well, I think if you're using yourself as the example, I'd be like, why on earth are you considering selling that property? Don't do it. You know better. Right? Truly, it would have to be a really sweet something, or you would have to be upgrading your investment portfolio in a way for that to make sense, right?
Or you had children and you're outgrowing your current home.
Well, but he
But
could rent it out.
I don't mean him.
Yeah,
No.
yeah. No, totally.
Someone
And
else.
that's a lot
Exactly.
of times. And a lot of times people don't want to have that investment property. And if they really
Yeah.
don't want it, that's fine. I know I get flack from realtors because they're like, please, why do you keep encouraging people to invest? We really need the homes listed. I'm like, I get that. And really it's
Yeah.
about what's going to work best for the person.
I think keep your current home and then as a rental. It's kind of a bad idea unless it's really low cost because
Yeah.
if it's over like 4 or 5, forget about getting your money out. Then it becomes a rental. When you go to sell it, it's never going to look as nice. It's going to be always a
I guess
distressed
it
property
depends
in
on
some
where
ways.
you are, though. I mean, for me, I've got the long game, well, a longer game, not as long as some, longer than others, right? I don't know.
Well, if you had a
have to treat it like a business.
$500,000 house, you could sell it and buy 2 or 3 $200,000
Right,
houses
that's
in
the
another
play.
community, like in Jacksonville, Florida,
Oh,
that
okay.
I've
As long as
discovered.
we're moving elsewhere, yes.
Yeah, because
yes.
once you get out of your comfort zone and look past Charlottesville, I gave up on Charlottesville as a single-family home rental purchase.
You were not
a
alone in
long
that.
time ago.
Yeah, yeah.
And luckily, I discovered
The
Jacksonville.
numbers just, no matter what market we've been in here,
Yeah.
the numbers don't work here like a lot of investors want
No,
them to.
It used to be you could buy a house for 100 times the monthly rent. Forget that. Now it's 175, 200.
That was one of the most challenging conversations I had to have on
Yeah.
a regular basis when working directly with my clients
Right.
who were investors, which it's my interest, so of course I'm going to attract and engage a lot of that. And it was really hard for them to realize that this market wasn't what, it's like, hey, your numbers, I get it. You're
Yeah.
doing the math. I know the math too.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, it's never going to match what you have in this other state here.
Right. Right.
It's just not
Well,
how
that's good for you.
Charlottesville works.
Yeah.
Well, and a lot of times that meant they were very frustrated for a while before they realized it.
Yeah, and it's hard to
Yeah.
go to another state. And the
Well,
whole
It
thing.
is.
Well, that's a perfect segue into the real estate IRA and the.
Yeah.
You want to touch on that?
Yeah.
So most people, if they have a Roth IRA or a SEP IRA, if you're self-employed or an IRA, have it in a stockbroker's account. 95% of all people do that. Through Remax International, I learned about Equity Trust Company, went on some webinars, and Equity Trust is a self-directed IRA, also known as a real estate IRA. Self-direct is a better word. So then when I discovered that I could do my own choices, make my own choices with regards to this money in the IRA, it was a no-brainer to open an account. I used Equity Trust Company in Cleveland. The website's trustetc.com. I think there's a half a dozen companies. They've overall always been referenced as the best overall company, and I recommend them. So that's one of the best things I did because I bought one house within the real estate IRA, and I realized, hey, I can't depreciate it, so it's on Elliott. It was in that guy's video about what could happen badly. And
Yeah.
It was 1002 Elliott. So I took that $250,000 and I now lend it to Jacksonville Wealth Builders in a series of 16 different notes, all 6 to 2-month or 2-year maturity, and every month, but the money comes back into the IRA tax-free, and it just keeps growing and growing and growing. And then when you reach a certain age, you have to take out, 1/30 of it each year, which is no big deal. So, but you can own cryptocurrencies, you can own land, you can own artwork, you can own real estate, you can own anything you want. You make the own decision, so it's a little bit riskier, obviously, unless you trust yourself.
So the advantage of doing this is you're still an investor and a landlord, but you don't have the day-to-day operations, the maintenance, and potentially the headaches that you're responsible for.
Well, now you're talking about the homes in Jacksonville. Yeah, all the homes I own, 10 of them, I've never been inside any of them. I've only seen 3 of them from the outside because I totally trust the company. I've been down there a couple of times. Jessica and I were just there. And they do all the management. And by the way, in Jacksonville, Florida, all the leases are like 3 years long.
Right.
That's what they, 2 is unusual, 2 to 3. And we have like a 97.8% renewal rate. During COVID, the occupancy before COVID was 98.6, and during COVID was 98.2. We didn't lose like any tenants at all.
Yeah, it was.
Jacksonville was great.
Nice.
And the rents
How'd you learn about this, Roger?
Through a webinar at Equity Trust Company. So Remax led to Equity Trust, led to Jacksonville. So I talked to Greg Cohen down there. They only take investors who want to buy and hold. So they flew me to Jacksonville. I spent 3 days there. I went to 9 different homes. Bought the first one I saw was 3-bedroom, 2-bath, car garage, 1-car garage, hardy plank and brick on a paved street, 6,000 square foot lot. What do you think it cost?
In Jacksonville, I'm going to call it $160.
$92,000, and it rented for $950 at the time.
Oh my gosh!
Now it rents for. Now I'm getting offers every day for $300,000, and it rents for $1,350, I think.
Okay.
So it covers everything and then some.
Yeah. After all, taxes and insurance, I still have to pay. I think I net about $1,000 from each house. It's great.
That's significant. And questions coming in for you on this.
Yeah.
This is from Brian, who's watching the program in Crozet. Does your guest, first he says, please bring this guest back. He seems to be a breath of fresh air and a wealth of knowledge. Brian also says, is your guest saying that the Charlottesville market has gotten so expensive that the average investor is having a hard time running a coherent business model?
Well, with regard to residential, now commercial is a little bit different. We've done pretty well in commercial, but again, it's a long-term hold. But yeah, I think a lot of small investors are looking elsewhere. Like, if it costs 200 times the monthly income to buy a home, and you can find something else in Buffalo or Cleveland or Dayton or Jacksonville, and you can if you know how to look, then once you get over that fear of being out, I used to think if I could drive by everything I owned in a day, I would be happy, but I've got over that. That's a negative belief. So once you can get over that, and then there's a wealth of knowledge, on podcasts and everywhere.
Oh, so much. What's your favorite?
Well, I listened to Get Rich Education on Keith Weinhold, and
Nice.
and he's had
That's a good one.
he's had the Jacksonville Wealth Builders advertised, but he also had Peter Zehan, who's a geopoliticist, and I read all his books now and listen to him every day. He's a brilliant guy.
Nice.
So he, through Keith and that podcast and YouTube channel, it's really,
that's awesome.
And he just focuses on single-family home purchases and
Really?
rentals. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Well,
Okay.
occasionally duplex or something like that.
Yeah.
You're getting, is it Michael Vydrzel watching the program right now?
McCall, he's from Czech Republic. He's a hockey player.
Is he
UVA.
watching in the Czech
Is
Republic?
that McCall?
Yeah.
Yeah, hi McCall. Yeah.
McCall is watching right now. He says, I'm listening to you right now, Roger, and I'm loving it. So he's watching in the Czech Republic literally as we're...
So McCall came over to America with almost no money. He was like homeless in New York. Then he ended up at Eastern Kentucky University or Western Kentucky, played hockey for us at UVA when he was at Darden, and he went to Microsoft. Now he has his own business in Czech, and he's one of my favorite guys.
Gwendolyn
That's
Gail
incredible.
Cassidy watching the
Yeah,
program.
Gwendolyn's great.
She says, Mr. Charlottesville, Roger, you did not tell me any of this when we met last week. How are you? She says, how are you selecting cities? This is a Harvard-educated viewer and listener right now.
Well, I just happened to stumble across Jackson. By the way, Jacksonville Wealth Builders, AKA JWB Capital, they do not go in other cities. They're completely focused, which is another lesson that I think Segura should learn. You stay, you focus in your hometown until you've done such a great job that you're getting medals, which JWB gets, by the way. So I was thinking I wanted to do this in Buffalo, where it's my hometown, and give me a connection. I'm going to go there for the Bills and Sabres games and stuff. But I'd have to pay taxes in New York, and in Florida doesn't have taxes, income taxes like that. So that's a big. Ohio is another place I looked into, but I think I hesitated. Life's complicated enough. I didn't want to complicate it with
Life is complicated.
another tax return.
Nikki, any thoughts on any of this?
No, I love it, and I love that you brought the idea of investing out of state. That's another, because we've mentioned Bigger Pockets before, and that's kind of my go-to for a lot of things, right? And they talk all the time and have guests all the time talking about, hey, get out of your comfort zone. It doesn't have to be local. And I think you're right, and it doesn't. And there's I think a lot of the people that I end up talking to that want to invest locally, there's a combination of comfort zone, but for some of them it's they really just want to give back here. And so there's and I think there's probably a balance even for those people, because you're right, the numbers don't work the same way.
Not the same way,
They do not.
I like Bigger Pockets. I'm not active, but a woman called me up from Bigger Pockets, and it led to, I started a subdivision in Greene County called Meadow Ridge with a guy named Sunil Shako at Glenmore, and Mike Sadler's building us 7 spec homes. So we're building right now.
That's awesome.
Brand new homes in Greene County.
Yeah.
Right close to the, where the new Sheets is.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a 9-iron from there.
Greene County has got tremendous momentum and tailwinds behind it right now. As affordability has been a problem in Albemarle, folks are willing to head across the county line to Greene, where they're getting maybe 30-40% discounts on brand new homes and just having to commute just a couple more minutes further. I am hearing from my friends at Greene County government that they're getting to a point of capacity with what's in the pipeline.
Yeah, I heard.
And also getting to the point with locals that are saying, hey, we got a lot of new units coming on the market, slow this down. So we may have hit the ceiling in Greene here. Time will tell.
And that's tough, because that was the go-to affordable place to go to. And then Louise and Flavanna, you've talked about them.
Well, and
What's left? Buckingham County? No one wants to drive down Route 20.
Yeah.
Well, and it's not even Route 20 is challenging enough, but it's also beautiful. Yet, if you're really going into Buckingham, that's further away.
Yeah, it's too far.
Now, I will say I do feel like, and maybe I'm wrong, and it's just conversations I haven't been having, but I feel like Orange is still in that more drivable range that people don't think about.
Yeah, you're right.
You can go all the way into Orange.
Yeah.
There's some really nice areas there. I live on the south side of Charlottesville, and it's maybe 45 minutes for me. So if you were anywhere further north with where you work or where you want to be.
We have an Orange County investor on the program right now,
Nice.
Jamie Turner, mayor of Gordonsville. Jamie Turner says, he says, this gentleman is awesome. He's talking about you.
Thank you, Jamie.
And he grew up in this area and has investment property in Gordonsville. I will highlight the fact that Paul Manning and son-in-law Chris Henry have a tremendous amount of skin in the game and a tremendous amount of future plans for Gordonsville, in particular downtown Gordonsville. Gordonsville was the home of PBM, so Paul has got a lot of commitment to making Gordonsville special. One thing I've heard percolating in Gordonsville is the construction of a boutique hotel in downtown Gordonsville. And as the Keswick, Patch, Mary Mill Trail, this wine and brewery trail, becomes a reality, much like the 151 trail in Nelson, I would bet that you're going to see a lot of investors target Gordonsville and this portion of Orange County with land grabs. Time will tell. Time will tell.
Yeah, Paul bought a lot of that from Hank Brown, who you've had on the show. And by the way, Chris Henry played. He was one of our goalies at UVA hockey.
I did not know that.
I just texted. He's in Barcelona right now. I introduced him to my high school friend, who's a cardiologist.
I think he's in
That's awesome.
Barcelona pursuing
getting an
higher
MBA.
education.
He's getting an MBA.
An MBA
He'll come
in
back.
Barcelona.
Yeah.
He's one of the most established and credible developers and builders in this market, and the guy who was the vision of Dairy Market and Dairy
definitely.
Central. Chris, a good friend of the program.
Coming in. Right.
I love that place.
I'll throw this to you here. And this question's come in from a couple of people. How difficult is it to start a REIT locally?
Real estate?
Yeah.
Well, I'm kind of involved in 2 mini REITs. I wouldn't call them REITs, but like Aaron Laufer, who is a very sophisticated guy. He's on the downtown.
I know Aaron Laufer.
Aaron's great.
And his partner, Tripp Stewart.
Tripp, yeah, so they're buying.
Play
that
squash with
close.
him.
Yeah, so Aaron looks hard for real estate opportunities, and 15 years ago we bought what's now called the Da Vinci Center.
Yep.
Where Aquafloat is. They're my clients. So Aaron put together 8 investors, and it's not a REIT, but it's a mini investment club.
I would call it a consortium.
Yeah, and then Mark Brown, when we bought the Charlottesville Ice Park and turned it into the Main Street Arena and then resold it to Jaffrey, we bought the Tall Oaks Technology Center, which used to be Nimbus Records in Green, with the same investors. So that's like another consortium, which I highly recommend to people who are listening. If you can find people that are smarter than you or have more money, and just sort of get involved with being a small investor with them. Because being a small investor is almost as good as the whole thing.
My mentor, Bill Nitchman, who owns the Professional Center on the Mall, just sold a huge building on Dale Avenue to a consortium of I want to say 8 to 12 guys my age, and a lot of these guys tied to the company GovSmart.
Oh, I know that.
Brent Lillard.
Yep.
Brent, I'm going to get you on the program. I know you watch the show, but the guys pulled their resources and bought close to a city block.
Yeah, I know the building. It's where Francisco Portel operates. You should get him on the show. He's a genius.
You want to do an introduction? We'll get him on.
I'll
trust your
introduce you,
judgment. Neil Williamson for Roger. He's the president of the Free Enterprise Forum, Neil Williamson. He says, a good barometer of Greene County is this week's Planning Commission meeting. Watch rezoning for 500 homes along US 33. By the way, the by right density would allow only SFR. The rezoning would allow attached product. So he's basically saying, and he lives in Greene County, Neil.
Yeah. Sean Tubbs reported something like 250 homes coming to Standardsville. I think that's the same thing.
Is that the same thing, Neil? Jump in with some perspective here for us. We would love to hear some thoughts on Greene. And Neil, I would love to hear this question. Are we at a capacity with future development in Greene when it comes to housing, like I'm hearing percolating from stakeholders in Greene?
Well, and by capacity, you mean people's tolerance for change.
Yes.
Because it's not about land. They've got the dirt.
Yeah.
Right. But the tolerance for change drives political capital and who gets into office.
Yeah. I just wanted to say that out loud, not because I didn't think you knew, but for people to realize that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
I think sometimes it's easy to hear like a soundbite and not let it digest, because we've got a lot of sound bites hitting our brains, right?
Yeah. I think Albemarle County is a perfect example.
Oh, yeah.
Look at who we're voting into office. And, I'm not throwing shade at anybody, but the folks that are being voted into office are the ones that are not opposed to development, or opposed to development, excuse me. You got, Supervisor Malik, who's running for re-election, either her 4th or 5th term. Supervisor B. Lepisto Kirtley running for a 2nd term. You got Diantha McKeel on either her 3rd or 4th term. Ned Galloway on his 2nd term here. Yes, we have Mike Pruitt running, and he's running unopposed in the Scottsville district, so he's going to win.
So he's taking Donna Price's place?
Donna Price is not running.
Yeah.
So Mike Pruitt will be, and he's coming on the show tomorrow, and he's watching now. Mike Pruitt is going to be on the board.
Okay.
But he's one of 6 votes.
Yep.
So while he's very pro-housing, 5 beats 1. And 5 beats 1 every single day. So the likelihood of any new development in Albemarle County is
So where all
slim.
these new employees coming for the data science center and all the construction going on at UVA, they're going to have to live somewhere.
Or Paul's Biotech Institute.
Yeah.
And all the ecosystems built around it. And these are 6-figure jobs. So these 6-figure jobs are going to not cannibalize, they're going to pursue the available real estate now, which is going to then push anyone under a 6-figure job further away from the epicenter of employment. This is a very real, I don't want want to say problem, but like, so Charlottesville, I'll throw this to you, Roger. Charlottesville is such a coveted place to live, this area, and that's why we live here. But we're almost in some ways victims of our own success when it comes to affordability.
It happens almost every nice, look at Greenwich Village in New York City. Like, if that was the place to go, and now what it is, it's just a bedroom community full of expensive condos that no one can afford. Probably people from other countries buying the condos, not even living there. Yeah, it's a really tough thing.
Well,
I
I
don't
think
have any
a lot
answers.
I think a lot of times it's backed by fear of either the unknown or an idea that we have in our heads, and I can be very understanding of that, right? And having more conversations, having better conversations, and being able to educate and build trust that growth would look in such a way that people are more comfortable, because I think a lot of times people really do want that, and there's not the trust there. So when you add the lack of trust and you have that, fear of what that could look like for this community that people really love. Like I joke about it being the vortex, because I'm like, oh, you know what? I know you're moving out of town, but I'll see you in about 5 to 15 years. Yeah. Because, you might be coming back.
Well, I mean, some of the best 4 years of my life were at UVA.
Yeah,
And
that's
then
why
I was
people
like,
come back.
That's what I'm saying.
The hook.
The
Well,
hook.
But that's why
the
they call
newspaper.
it the hook.
Yeah.
There's a song about that.
I thought it was the gentleman. I thought it was the gentleman C. That's why they called it the hook.
I don't know about how Spencer. You can ask Haas.
I will
I'm pretty
ask
sure it's because people come back.
Yeah. And it also, the hook is a nickname for the gentleman C, that when you went to the University of Virginia or you attended the University of Virginia, if you showed up for class, you often got what was called the gentleman C.
Really?
Which led for passing and a degree.
Really?
And
That's
that was
special.
nicknamed the hook. The C. The C
see,
was the
gotcha.
gentleman C. So Neil Williams said, he says Roger's exactly right. The project that you were talking about is the project he's talking
Okay,
about.
good.
So you were 100% right. And he also says Greene County is reaching political capacity on new development. The physical capacity, water, sewer, and schools are sufficient for development, but the political capacity is not there. That's what I'm hearing as well.
Yeah.
This is from also Neil Williamson mentioning Sean Tubbs, which is what you mentioned.
Yep.
From Sean Tubbs' newsletter, the first is a public hearing on a request to rezone nearly 140 acres near the town of Standardsville from R1 residential to planned unit development to allow for a community of 500 units with a mixture of 150 townhomes and 350 single-family detached units. The Greene County Future Land Use Map designates this area as mixed-use village center, and a portion of one of the parcels is within the town.
Is it walkable to downtown Stanleyville? Because if it is, that could be a boon to that. That's town's already been bypassed, and it must be hard for the merchants to make a go of it.
That's a good follow-up question for you, Neil. Thoughts on any Greene County related there,
No, I
Nikki?
love that. The Standardsville was the first area that I started really working when I got into real estate.
Yeah.
Because people didn't want to go there. And I lived in Scottsville, so it's not like when
Wow.
living, but it was an opportunity, and
Yep.
people wanted to ignore it, and I was like, oh, I'm here for that.
Mm-hmm.
So thankfully I had a CRV with all-wheel drive, because a lot of those roads required it.
Pretty
Yep.
rural.
And never had damaged tires, which was also a high risk on some of those roads. But I loved it. I love helping people. I love areas. I love where we live.
Yeah.
So did a lot of work there. I would love to see something like that benefit that town. Because you're right. Being bypassed really
Yeah.
does have a huge impact on business owners who also usually live in the area
Definitely.
and need to have businesses to be able to continue to do so.
How about the Katie Pearl, hello, Logan Wells Claylow, hello, many of your colleagues at RE/MAX.
Oh, really?
All over the show right now, Roger.
We love our RE/MAX friends. I'm just saying.
Walkability in this town and public transportation is coming up on the feed. I'll get to the specific questions, but I know this is something you like to pontificate about.
How does the bus situation, how do they survive? Because I've just never seen anybody in the buses. There's 5 or 10 of them lined. I almost got in an accident because they were so lined up on Water Street that I couldn't see around the corner, and a fire truck was coming the other way, and I was in the other lane trying to get around the buses. Anyways, there must be some secret to how they survive. I guess federal grants or something, but walkability is wonderful. I love the Woolen Mills for that reason.
Do we need a better, okay, I'll rephrase this question. How important is a reliable and consistent and ubiquitous and approachable public transportation system for creating affordability with housing in Charlottesville?
Ooh, that's a big question. I'm not an expert. I thought of two things. One, I wish the buses were smaller and maybe on call, and then also the buses need to go like jaunt far out to bring these people who live 30 minutes away. There's a thing I always tell people about moving to Greene or Louisa to save money is every 30-minute drive is about $200 or $300 a month on auto expenses, which translates to like $50,000, $75,000 of a home price if you didn't have that. So you're not escaping the affordability problem by going 30 minutes away, especially if you work downtown. So it's always a balance. People don't think about it.
It's creating a different challenge.
The lenders don't even ask about
No.
that. They don't say, well, how much it's going to cost you to drive 30
Oh,
minutes?
no.
Two people
But your budget
sometimes.
hopefully factors that, and
Yeah.
hopefully someone is having that conversation, your trusted advisor, right? If
They
you're-
rely on
right?
people like you and me.
Yes, absolutely. No, I think that's a really good point.
Yeah.
There's also that aspect of depending on what your job situation is like, if you have good flexibility and trust, then you're probably okay. And if you do not, and your car breaks down,
Yeah.
you could be out of that job.
Well,
Like-
if the IRS allows 55 cents a mile deduction or more now, then that's the real cost.
Yeah.
And I think that cost, frankly, might be a little light.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because if anyone has tried to price some tires or done any work on their vehicle in any capacity, they'll realize how expensive that is.
Absolutely.
Neil says that a portion of the development is walkable to downtown Standersville.
That's good.
And
Yes.
he said, by the way, the Greene County 4th of July parade was absolutely awesome. Kevin says we need to explore a light rail partnership on existing rails.
So Meredith Richard told me that
She watches.
I live on the CSX line. She said now it's owned by the state of Virginia, so the Commonwealth of Virginia owns that in preparation for a Charlottesville or Richmond train, which she said is coming.
We should highlight Meredith in her role as an evangelist for the rail system.
She's like the president of the
I'll tag her right
Train
now.
Passengers Association of America.
Right.
Something like that.
I need to get her on the show.
She's for sure.
Yeah.
She should be on the show.
She is, I would say, the biggest champion of.
For decades.
Right.
She's a saint.
Right. Do you think it's realistic, this rail concept system? I mean, why hasn't it materialized?
Which is the question, going to Richmond or rails to?
All the above. Locally, rails, and then.
I don't get it locally.
Okay.
It probably doesn't, yeah. I feel
So
like
you
that
see it
would- cost doesn't
Richmond,
work,
Northern
right?
Virginia.
Yeah, I mean, I took the train all the time from Montreal to Toronto. It was a blessing. I went from downtown Montreal to downtown Toronto, but that's two huge cities, and it was a 6-hour drive. I think it took me maybe 2 hours on the train, maybe 3.
Go ahead.
I don't
was
see it
just gonna
happening
say,
around
the whole
here.
train life, I do think also it's not something we often, unless you're from a big city area, think about,
No.
right? So at one point, we had a function, a KW function in Roanoke. And I remember I rode, right, because it was a great motorcycle season and trip. But my backup plan was actually to take the train. And at that point, they had some deal going on. It
Oh,
might
yeah.
have been like post-COVID life. It was like $8 each way for dropping in Roanoke and having fun. So I think also that's that part of the conversations in education so that people have a better understanding of what this could look like and be more comfortable with it, right? So that there's no longer that fear base. I also think the walkability is similar to that because if I go visit New York City, I'm going to walk miles. I'm going to. And yet I live in Willoughby, which is only 2 miles from downtown Mall. And the idea of walking there makes me go, oh, why would I do that when I can
Exactly.
drive and park? But I would not view it the same way if I were in New York City thinking, oh, I want to go see that Broadway show and go to dinner there. No, I may take transportation.
This is right up
but I'm
Peter.
probably going to walk.
Peter Krebs' alley, who came on the show on Friday,
Yeah.
Piedmont Environmental Council. Peter Krebs, jump in here with some perspective. How about the Rivanna Trail?
Love it. I love the bridge they put over Moores Creek. It really completed everything, and now we have a trail where you don't have to ford a stream once or twice. Love it.
How could the Rivanna Trail factor into safe walkability, bicyclability in this community for folks to potentially get away from vehicles and pursue a level of affordability where they can live in Charlottesville and not have to worry about, let's say, going to Waynesboro, because they're priced out of Charlottesville. Once they go to Waynesboro, they realize, good God, I'm dropping $300, $400, $500 a month just to commute. So this affordability that I thought was truly affordable, I'm literally losing money versus paying the rent here in Charlottesville, and then just get around with the RT or maybe improve bike lanes and walking lanes.
Well, I never thought of the trail being factored into what you're talking about. It's more of a recreational, and I wouldn't want to see it with a lot of bikes either. It's too crowded already, and I don't think
that's
it works.
what they're trying to push.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, some news is the bridge over the Rivanna from Pantops to East Market Street, which I thought was crazy, did not get funding for the second time, so it looks like it's not going to happen.
This coming in from, gosh, the comments are coming in faster than I can keep up. So this is from Woody. Trains struggle in the United States because most rail lines are owned by freight carriers and they have first rights to the line.
Yeah.
Amtrak constantly runs late because they have to stop and let low freight through. That's from Woody. Neil says heavy rail, i.e. the Virginia Railway Express, is the most likely scenario. I've tagged Meredith, and I think Meredith is watching now. Meredith Richards, jump in here with any perspective, please. This comment has come in. Any thoughts to Jerry, and this is a pipe dream I've had, any thoughts to Jerry's gondola idea? And that's from Kelsey.
Is that on the downtown mall? Because I always thought it'd be fun to have a gondola go in the length of the mall. And by the way, you know where they do it?
Where?
Morgantown, West Virginia.
Yeah, they do it a lot of places.
University of Morgantown, or West Virginia University.
Right. And a lot of folks don't realize this, that there used to be a trolley line that ran literally right down West Main Street.
Yeah. I think Gabe Silverman wanted to do a trolley there.
Dude, someone put this on my radar. Gabe Silverman wanted to do a connector from downtown Charlottesville to Monticello.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because
that was the idea.
He tried to buy the old hospital there. Maybe he did buy it. I don't remember.
Yeah.
And that was going to be an arts center for artists of all kinds. And it'd be connected by this trolley.
Right.
Nice.
And Gabe had to put Gabe in perspective for everybody.
Oh, well, Gabe's one of my favorite guys. He's literally right across the street.
Yeah, by Tonic.
Yeah, Gabe and his whole family. They came from California, located like many Californians to Moran Forest in Batesville. He was a big proponent of solar, and we did a lot of solar with his housing company. Great guy, you know. Live art started in the Mickey building. Mm-hmm. So Fran Sackett and Michael Perrin and I, we went over with Gabe and we looked for a spot for live arts, and we were looking on the second floor, and Gabe said, let's do it in the corner down on the first level where Icarus Medical is now. And to Gabe and Allie's credit, they, instead of putting a parking lot, they put that little park where Tonic is. That was like a gift to the community.
Nice.
That they didn't have to do because, you know, parking was needed.
Right.
They could have easily just put cars there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Gabe was, and he and Allie bought buildings on the downtown mall. Hamilton's restaurant. Mm-hmm. So that was going to be the Mud House. And I was working with Billy and Kate Hamilton, and Billy was kicking and screaming about downtown mall because it hadn't turned the corner yet. But I knew the ice park was coming in and the mall crossing, and so finally got Billy to at least to look at that space, and Mud House changed their mind that they relocated to a smaller spot. So we worked out a deal with Allie and Gabe, and the rest is history there. They've been there 29 years.
Alan Kajin listens to the show, a bi-coastal attorney, lives in San Francisco. Lives
Hawaii too.
Okay, so now he's got
He comes here for weeks at a time.
For weeks at a time.
Yeah.
Owns some of the most marquee property in the city of Charlottesville. Has the Passiflora building, owns the parking lot on West Main Street where Wild Wing Cafe is, owns Wild Wing Cafe,
The
owns
trains-
a good chunk of the downtown mall. This guy is a heavy hitter. Gabe Silverman was his boots on the street. Rest in
Yeah.
power, Gabe Silverman here in Charlottesville. My Gabe Silverman story, 15 years ago when I launched this business, one of my friends introduces me to him. I go to his studio over here where he literally has, it's like a
Toys
mess.
everywhere.
Yeah, a mess everywhere on Market Street. I walk in. He's smoking a cigarette. He literally has the cigarette dangling from his lips.
Yeah.
I come in and say, I need some office space for my building. He has it dangling from his lips. He sizes me up and he goes, how much you need? I go, about 300 or 400 square feet. It's me and 2 other people. And then he goes, what you want to pay for? And I go, well, I can afford $300, $350 a month. That's it. He goes, how long the term? And I go, the shorter the better. He goes, I got you.
That's right.
That's literally the story.
Yeah, I believe it totally.
And he was so willing to help. They owned the Purple Building on West Main where Feast is located.
Oh, absolutely. The market,
Nice.
Main Street Market.
Main Street Market. That's absolutely right.
So I once was head of the community revitalization program at Carr, and I had to pick out a winner of the award for the year.
Yeah.
There was like 10 of us, and it was the simplest. We picked Gabe Silverman because it was like a no-brainer. And thank God he was married and Karen got him to come, because otherwise he would have stayed at home at his office playing with his toys or doing some deal rather than coming and getting his award, but he came and got it.
Sounds about
Were
right.
he and Allie college roommates?
I don't know. I really, they probably did some deals in San Francisco, and
Okay.
because Allie's the lawyer and Gabe's
Yeah.
the architect.
Right.
I don't know if they went to Berkeley together or anything
Okay,
like
I
that.
think they were friends from college.
Somebody might know who's listening, but
Yeah, viewers and listeners, if you can help us out in here. Another building they own, the Rapture Building. Allie owns that. I mean, you're talking about some of the most trophy properties, and he listens to this show, which is important to emphasize. You guys make the show a dream. Roger, we got to welcome you back here. I
did we
wanna-
get to my list?
I do. That's what I'm saying.
How much time we got?
We got, let's call it 10 minutes.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. Go. Anywhere you want to start with.
Well, there's there's 3 or 4 fun things. One, Tesla. I got some breaking news. After years of lobbying, the state, the Commonwealth agreed to a sales and service center in Charlottesville. First was Tyson Corner, then Norfolk and Richmond. So all these Tesla people have to go to Richmond for a service if they do. But we're going to have one in Charlottesville, but the
awesome.
location is a secret.
Okay.
I can't tell anyone yet. But
In the city limits?
no, I think it's in
Albemarle County?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I get this from the lobby group called Capital Results. They're great. I think it's going to be at Fashion Square Mall. I know where it's not going to be. It's not going to be on 250 and 20 where the car dealership was that Oliver had.
Oh, yeah.
'cause that was too small for them. And there's not very many big places, and something tells me it's
Yeah.
going to be at
So
Fashion
that
Square Mall.
is breaking news. We should cut this into a
That's
sizzle
incredible.
reel for the 12:30 show. What he just said about Tesla. Let's say this again. So we have Tesla coming.
Coming to Charlottesville at an undetermined location, but we should know very shortly.
Okay.
Okay. Some other breaking news.
You were the first Tesla vehicle owner in this community,
No,
right?
Sandy Reisky at Apex Clean
Okay.
Energy was. I was the first one who had ordered or maybe got the Model X,
Okay.
but not the only one.
Okay.
So I had to wait 2 years for my car.
Okay.
But I knew at the time, that was 2014. At the time, I knew everybody by name who had a Tesla because there's only like a dozen people. Now there's like
There's
a
a lot of
dozen on
people,
Market
right?
Street
Yes,
in
yes.
10 minutes.
Tesla everywhere. now.
Everywhere.
So you think the Tesla epicenter or dealership is going to come to Fashion Square Mall?
That's my guess. Somewhere out in 29 there.
That is breaking news.
Yeah.
Well,
But
that's
don't.
incredible to have that service center right
So
here.
thing about a service, you can go take test drives.
Right.
We can look at a power wall, and they have a big TV like this that shows all the superchargers in the world. It's quite a place to visit. And by the way, if you own a Tesla, most of the service is done at one's home. They come to your house to do.
neat.
There's not that many parts to an electric car.
Yeah.
Like I had my cup holder replaced by Thomas, and he came to my house and did it in 15 minutes.
We're going to
That's
cut
very
that
incredible.
content and
Yeah.
replay it on our 12:30 show. Give us another piece.
Another breaking news is the ACC hockey commissioner said UVA hockey is going to be too good this year not to have a coach, and the coach moved to Boston. So he asked me to find one. So I first thought of Andrew Hickson, who's on the show. I thought about like 4 guys who play hockey, and Andrew was the first guy I approached, and he immediately saw the opportunity and said yes. Now, Andrew lives on Langford Lane in Belmont, not Belmont, off of Ridge Street, Played hockey at Northeastern. He's a Canadian from Ottawa. Plays hockey in Richmond, like all the hockey players have to go to Richmond or Liberty University. And then he immediately recruited an assistant, a guy from Richmond who played at Yale. So now we have two really good coaches.
Nice.
And the team is, we can't lose the team even though we lost a place to play. So nobody thinks about the UVA hockey team except people like me and the other coaches. So I'm really happy to announce that Andrew's, and he put something on Facebook.
He did. He gave you props. He's watching right now.
Yeah, I put something on him, and he put it on his own page. But the UVA hockey page has a link to the story.
I love it. I love it. What else we got? TEDx.
Oh, TEDx. Well, there's a lot to talk about that. But basically, our committee is sort of dispersed. Somebody moved to Santa Barbara, Austin, Harvard, New York. So it's going to be hard to recreate our Crackerjack committee to redo another one. But I wanted to tell a story about TEDx because I often wondered, did we make any difference in anyone's lives? And Jude, if you can go to sportsillustrated.com, si.com, and search the keywords Redemption, Virginia basketball, here's the story. In 2014, Donald Davis gave a talk at our second TEDx. He's a storyteller from North Carolina. And Laurel Bennett, Tony Bennett's wife, was in the audience. 4 years later, UVA loses to UMBC in an ignominious, embarrassing loss. First time a top-seeded team lost to the lowest-seeded team. Tony was beside himself trying to figure out how he's going to help these young minds, these young athletes, overcome this choking experience. Laurel said, Tony watched this TED Talk I remember 4 years ago. So he went on our YouTube site or our website, found that Donald Davis talk, was so impressed he made the whole team and coaching staff watch it a couple times, and it helped them change their attitude towards this thing that happened to them. So what happened was when they went to Duke and played Duke, the Dukies were chanting UMBC, and Kyle Guy and Ty Jerome weren't faced by it at least. They had purged their subconscious mind of this choking experience by telling the story about it. So did you find that website? Virginia basketball. Anyways, the whole story.
Check your Facebook DM there, if you could, please.
The whole story is on Sports Illustrated, told beautifully, including the TED Talk.
Nice.
Anyway, so it's wonderful. Then Tony Bennett 3 times gave credit to this TED experience. But get this, that's only chapter 1 of a 2-chapter story. A similar thing happened to Tampa Bay Lightning in the National Hockey League. They were the first seed team, and they lost to the lowest seeded team in the Stanley Cup playoffs in 2019. And John Cooper, he was, he's the coach. He goes, what am I going to do? This is terrible. It's never happened before. Someone told him about UVA. So he went and he learned about the UVA story, watched our TED Talk, got a UVA hat, and he made that the mantra for the entire year to his team. Now, this team's composed of Russians, Canadians, Czechoslovakians, Finns, Swedes. They don't know anything about college basketball in this country. They ended up, make a long story short, they ended up winning the Stanley Cup. And then when they're on the podium, all the players are sweaty. They got their Stanley Cup hat. John Cooper, the coach, he has a UVA basketball hat on.
That's awesome.
Isn't that awesome?
That is awesome.
So the moral of the story is you never know what you do, how it's going to change someone's life for the better. In this case, it happened, we created indirectly, we helped create 2 championships.
That's amazing.
And that was like the highlight of Charlottesville the last 5 years, is that celebration of the national championship.
That is absolutely amazing.
Everybody was so high.
I want to highlight one more time here, the Woolen Mills Chapel and Wool Factory Preservation Piedmont.
So Preservation Piedmont is now the official owner of the Woolen Mills Chapel, which had been, falling on hard times. I mean, at the best, neighbors were contributing $5 a year to the neighborhood association. Every once in a while, we'd raise some money. John Fink would, contribute a couple thousand. We get the place painted. Fred Wolf was in charge and taking care of the chapel, but somehow he did a deal with Preservation Piedmont, who has the resources and the bandwidth to help steward this beautiful building. I don't know what's going to happen, but it's going to be all good. And
That's
it's
amazing.
the heart of our neighborhood.
Oh, it is, outside of the wool factory, the most iconic aspect, right?
That and the power plant across
Yeah.
the street from me, which a guy named Phaedrus owns, and I'm hoping he'll, at one point, come to the realization that he can't develop it, and then he'll donate the power plant to Preservation Piedmont, and then they can do something nice, because it's overgrown and there's broken glass in the power plant. It's not very safe.
I've had, Rachel Burns, hello. I've had 1, 2, 3, 4,
Oh, you found it.
7
I sent it
people,
to Jerry already.
7 people say, bring Roger back.
Yeah.
Thanks. Did you find the redemption? Because
I think Judah's doing a lot of things right now
But-
here
I
on the
sent it to
fly.
Jerry.
Yeah.
it's right here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Do
it's
you
just fun
want
to read that.
We will check it out and we will put it in the feed, guys. You guys are a dream. I'm very grateful for your time. Any closing thoughts?
You know, I think it's amazing. So I know I didn't speak a lot on this show, but one of the things I love so very much, because Charlottesville is home to me now, right? And for a while, I was more transitory in life, and Pensacola, Florida was always still the place that I would refer to as home because I was transitory. And then I moved here kind of against my will. I didn't really want to. I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
I was like, if I haven't heard of it ever,
Yeah.
is it really a place to go? It's also a little far away from the ocean for my preference. And then I got here, and now this place is home, right? It's the longest I've ever lived in a place
Yeah.
in my adult life, and I love it. So being able to engage in a way where I understand a lot of the history behind things, and you're willing to share your experiences, is incredible, and thank you.
Oh, I love talking
yeah,
about it.
I love
We
it.
just touched the surface.
Yeah. Well, we'll
I have
to do
one
this
thing.
again.
One thing I prepared because I knew you were going to ask this question. Do you know what the Ho'oponopono is in Hawaii?
No.
It's a forgiveness and transformation ritual that the Hawaiian culture created, and I think if we could somehow adopt that to our country, but maybe just our city. So basically, it's summarized. You can go online and read about it. You say to oneself, "I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you," and you say that to yourself, or in a relationship with somebody else, and it's a transformative experience, and it's
Yeah.
worked wonders in this culture over in Hawaii. In fact, there's stories about healers going into prisons and changing the whole consciousness. But since we need a healing in our community and certainly in our country, if we could, wouldn't it be fun if like 5% of Charlottesvillians said the Ho'oponopono for an hour every week to themselves? I think maybe we could make
I think that would
real
I
change
think
here.
that would really change things.
it's,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And you can actually say it in any order. But if you go out on the internet, you could find references to how this has evolved and how they created it.
You're awesome, dude.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah,
So
it's
I wanted to
incredible.
share
Thank
because
you. Yeah.
it'd be something that we could carry forward.
Dude, Roger crushed it. Nikki crushed it. This show, guys, I just love doing the show and spotlighting folks like Nikki and Roger on the program. It's fun.
Yeah.
I love listening to Nikki.
Yeah.
I didn't even know you until this show. Every time you're
So
on the
I
show,
think-
I
okay.
listen.
I think we did a deal once.
We
But I
probably
had
did.
purple hair. That would have
You had
stood
purple
out.
hair?
I did.
I may not have seen you.
Okay. No, you did. That I think maybe.
I've been doing
I have
deals
to
for
look.
41 years in real estate, so it sometimes
You've met a lot of
surprises me.
people.
Yeah,
I know.
exactly.
But I'm not
He
sure. I need to
watches
look
you on the
back.
show.
Yeah,
I
I
need to look
definitely watch you
back.
on the show.
Yeah.
You and
Well,
Keith
I'm really
are great
glad that you
together.
do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, really.
I just love being here.
I miss Keith. I wish he was here.
Keith's watching from Cali.
One of my fraternity brothers almost killed himself on the same journey that Keith's doing.
Oh, my
It's very
gosh.
difficult. He lives in
Wow.
Tacoma. He's a bike rider.
Okay, so we all did see that post where he was like, "Yes, this is
I'm
me
safe.
not dying."
I'm
Yeah.
I'm saying.
Safe.
That's not his words, but that was my takeaway.
Keith is, not Cali, Seattle, but Keith is moving his daughter and granddaughter and son-in-law to Richmond.
Yeah.
And they will be Richmonders later this month, early August. And that makes Yonna and Keith very happy.
And joining the family business.
Yeah.
Which is exciting.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Youngest
yeah.
daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I read that.
Yeah.
She'll be doing real estate in Richmond. Good place to do it.
Great market.
Yeah.
They have
Yeah,
inventory.
absolutely. Yeah, good place.
For Roger, for Nikki, for Judah, this is Real Talk with Keith Smith. Keith will be back in, I believe, a week. We are grateful for Roger and Nikki's time. I will 100% reach out again. This has been too long.
Please do.
Judah, thank you for everything. We hope you enjoyed the show as much as we did. The I Love CVille show will be up in 1 hour, where we're going to make an announcement of a brand new talk show on this network that is going to take the talk show into a viewer and listenership that it is not currently reaching, and I'm super pumped to give you those details. Take care,
Wow.
everybody.
Nice.
Can't wait to hear that.
I know. I was like, can we get like a secret
I will tell you
tea
off air.
moment?
Once
That's
this-
cool.
I
Yeah.
I think he bought CNN.
I know. Oh, that's totally what happened.